Hi, everyone.
What's going on?
I'm Angela.
And I'm Ron.
And this is
Chatter
Chatter of
of
Opinion.
Opinion.
So, our topic today is a little deep,
Just a little bit.
but it is about homelessness in America.
Yes. If you drive around any city, especially after COVID, there's a lot of
Yes.
homeless individuals that are out there.
I agree. I work in a bad area of town, and daily I see it. There's just people just on the sides of the roads, any nook and cranny that they can find. Now I'm seeing a lot have tents, which I think is better. At least they have some type of coverage. A lot of people in vehicles, so I just see it daily. I don't know who I was talking to, but I also probably feed a homeless person at least once a week, once every other week.
Yeah, I feed the homeless as well, especially if I'm going through a drive-through.
Correct. And they're there.
Sure, yeah.
They're around.
I'm not saying once a week, but I do it quite often. And it's been an issue here in Albuquerque for a minute, especially when they were talking about building these homeless camps for individuals. The sad thing is they don't know exactly where to build them because it's either in a neighborhood that people don't want them there,
and they're fighting it, so that's why it hasn't been finished.
Established.
There's one right down the road from our home,
and it's not even finished yet.
No, it's been sitting now for a while.
And I'm pretty sure it's right next to a church, and I'm pretty sure the reason why it hasn't been finished is because of the pushback from the locals.
Yeah,
and
I think so
too. I can't disagree with them. I can't agree with them. I don't know, because I've never had any issues with any of the homeless community here.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's talk some stats real quick.
Okay, let's go.
Do yours first, and then I'll do what I found.
Where am I at right now? Where am I at? In 2022, according to usafacts.org, there was 582,000 homeless Americans.
That's a lot.
A lot. In 2022, 582,000 homeless.
Granted, that was in the midst of the end of COVID, so that seems legit.
Okay. And when you want to break it down to the states that have the highest homeless communities, of course, we're going to start off with probably the most populated state, which is California.
Yep.
Followed by New York.
Yep.
And Florida.
Yeah.
When it comes to the least,
that's per capita, right?
Per capita. When it comes to the least amount of homeless individuals, North Dakota, Wyoming, and the PPI, yes, it brings up for the least amount.
Okay.
And I was thinking, when it comes to the least amount, do you believe it's because some of these are small, family-oriented states where people normally take care of one another as a family? So normally you
don't think that's other states?
No, I'm just saying when it comes to, because North Dakota, not too many people, I don't know what the population is, but not too many people
it's per capita, there. So that's probably why it's the least. Is North Dakota small?
Right.
Wyoming's smaller.
It could be, but then from Wyoming, if you're from Wyoming, normally it's a lot of families that live in Wyoming, and you don't tend to move out or move around. So then you don't like to see your family members, since you're so small, homeless. You know
I can't speak to that because I'm not familiar with those states, so I don't.
You from Artesia?
Okay.
Now, do you see a big, and granted, you haven't been there in like forever.
Forever. I can't speak to it at all.
But was there
growing up there, I don't remember seeing any homeless. I do remember, if anyone remembers, Whistling Benny.
Who?
His name was Whistling Benny. I just remember that they said he had like PTSD, and they call him Whistling Benny because if you whistled at him, he would get kind of freaked out because of like
the shell shock. I thought whistling, you whistle at him, then he'd do a dance. Like,
no, it was more of a negative thing. But I always assumed he was homeless, but I don't know. Like, I didn't see him around actually like sleeping homeless.
Right.
I just saw him around and people would be like, stay away from Whistling Betty.
Yeah, and because there used to be this girl up in Ventana Ranch that would always be like in the trash and stuff like that, and it seemed like she was homeless, but she wasn't homeless.
She was dumpster diving to make money.
But she wasn't homeless.
Yeah.
What you mean dumpster dive? No,
I'm
she
just
wasn't
saying
making money because
that's a thing
one
right
time
now.
she tried to grab something out of there and drink out of a
Oh.
cup, but she wasn't homeless. She had a home to go to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, my stat is 59% of Americans are just one paycheck away from being homeless. And that was from bentley.edu.
And to think about
I
it,
totally agree.
it was a wake-up call because people, and granted, I've been here before where you live paycheck to paycheck.
Or you rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
You don't even live paycheck to paycheck.
And you was that one bad decision away from being in a homeless situation.
Yeah,
so
in the hole.
I could see that.
Yeah. All right. So let's do a list of reasons why people possibly could become homeless.
Okay. So let's start with number one is the obvious, living beyond your means.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young and dumb and tried to be hip, I lived way beyond my means. I had to have like the new shoes. And not just the new shoes, let's say, and they weren't even Jordans. Like, let's say the new Nikes came out. I had to get them in black. I had to get them in white. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had to stay up or keep up with the
charging
Kardashians.
up on credit cards.
I never was a
but in general, living beyond your means, people are like charging on credit cards.
And I can see it now being worse than it was before because back in the days we didn't have like social media and stuff like that. So now
you weren't trying to really you tried to impress, but only with the locals.
Oh yeah,
not with like hundreds and thousands of people on social media.
Right. When you were impressed back in my days, it was like at the club or something like that. But now you're on social media. You have to have the latest, this, that, and the other. And you don't even have to leave your house to try to keep up with somebody to live beyond your means.
Yeah.
Is there something that you ever purchased that you thought back in your day was like beyond your means?
No, I was always very
frugal.
Yeah. Not frugal, but just mindful of my spending.
Okay.
I didn't ever really like charge up my credit card. Granted, I'm lying. I did when I was a single mom, robbing Peter to pay Paul. I literally used it at the end of the month to survive, to like pay for formula or diapers and stuff. So that's where mine came in. But it wasn't. But it wasn't like at the time. It felt like it was outrageous because I didn't have it. But it was probably like $3,000.
I didn't even have a credit card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until I was maybe in my
I don't know how I could have survived without my credit card because that's really what, like I said, got me until my next.
Right. And my thing was back in those days, if I couldn't pay for it in cash, then
it didn't happen.
Yeah, because I didn't put it on a credit card. I didn't even apply for it.
So then if you didn't charge it,
I would just spend my money.
Spend it, and then you weren't paying stuff you were supposed to.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right. I have some bills, but these shoes are more important than my bills because I got 3 months to pay off these bills.
I was paying my bills, but after paying my bills, I was always responsible to pay the required bills. But then by the end of the month, I couldn't pay for like groceries or gas or those type of things. Was my issue.
I can see that.
So also too, I think that when people live beyond their means, it's like, I don't think that they think I could also lose my job. Like I'm living beyond my means. And then if I lose my job, or like they said, you're one paycheck away, then if you lose your job, you're not able to cover your housing plus that lifestyle you were trying to maintain.
Right. And like I said, when it came to COVID and a lot of people got either laid off or put on like hold from their job, that was apparent. You know what I mean? Like you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're relying on whatever hours that you put in is going to cover the minimum or the maximum of what you got going on.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay, our next one is domestic violence or being put out of your home.
Yeah, first of all, this month, I think it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. right?
Yeah,
So
I see, like, I feel like that's been a lot more common too. A lot of domestic violence. I feel like it stemmed more during COVID too, because people were at home
oh
together.
yeah, facing one another all
Yeah,
day
but
with
I
each
also
other.
think that it may just be put into in front of our faces more by like social media and all that. You
Right.
just hear about it more, whereas before it was more private.
Yeah, and I can see that too, especially with once again the whole COVID thing, and not only were you faced to be with your significant other
Yeah,
day in and day out, but you throw in financial situations,
right.
you throw in
And
a
it's
lot of
just not
stuff.
a good situation, and you're
Correct,
like,
because it was
you
unknown,
can't
and
survive.
yeah, not saying that that is, how do you say it, acceptable because it
Mm,
was COVID. I'm
totally.
just saying it did happen a lot during COVID. And brought to the forefront of things when it comes to the awareness.
Yeah, and
So,
sometimes with the domestic violence, they just finally are just over it
mhm,
or can't handle it, or it got so bad to where they were like, it's either my life or I just move out and I have nowhere to go, so I'm on the streets.
right. And sometimes it's that. It's sometimes where it happens where you are in a relationship, domestic violence happens, and then you get put out and you have nowhere to go. Not everyone has family, so you're stuck to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And on a bunch of occasions is where a domestic violence happens and you gave up everything in your past to be with that person. So when you gave up everything in that past and you chose this person over your family, over
Yeah,
your
a lot of
friends
times
and
with
stuff like
domestic
that,
violence, they tend to
be controlling.
be controlling and
Yes.
kind of keep you away from friends and family, or
Right.
create that distance so that when and if you are ready to leave, you no longer have that support to
Right.
go to.
And we'll get down to burning bridges later
Yeah,
on
true.
in the conversation. But
Okay.
I do agree with you. You know, you have that you're being controlled and people around you are telling you, hey, you need to leave this situation, and you're ignoring it and this, that, and the other. So then they distance themselves away from you.
Right.
So then when something finally happens
And you need
dramatically,
help,
you
you
need
don't
help.
have anyone.
Correct, because you kind of turned your back on them and now they turn their back on you.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So the next one is loss of employment.
Obvious.
Yeah,
Right?
loss of
Loss of
employment.
employment.
You put everything into what you think is going to be your forever when it comes to your financial situation. Then for some reason they have like budget cuts or this, that, and the other, and they have to let you go. So if you are living paycheck to paycheck, like we said before, or even if you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you only have a certain amount of money that's saved up.
Yeah.
You could find yourself running out of that money and either living in your car or living on the streets, one or the other.
Yeah, I agree. It's really scary.
Yeah. Employment, and that was a big one also during COVID, where
people were
you heard all of your life you should have X amount of savings.
3 to 7 months or
of your paychecks, right?
paycheck,
And then you just did not pay attention. Like 3 to 7 months, I got better things to do than to save my money.
And
for
that
3 to
was the
7
time
months.
people were like, see, I told you.
Yes,
I know.
because we were
That's
shut
true.
down for about how long? Maybe
from February until at least a year. No,
well, not everyone was
not
laid
everyone,
off, but
but
it was
still,
a while.
Yeah,
that you needed that extra.
I feel like it was a
extra
good
money.
year before even things were like barely getting back
Right.
to.
And then there was always you can apply for this or apply for assistance, but then that was even
Time
backed
consuming.
up. And backed up and so forth. So
Yeah.
when it comes to loss of employment, you always have to have some type of plan, whether it's that savings
True.
plan or not, to prevent something from this from happening. Even though nowadays a lot of people are getting underpaid, so you just barely make.
So you can't even. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is substance abuse,
Which is the number one that people think when you see homeless people, you automatically think that the reason they are homeless because they were either an alcohol abuser or a drug
or
addict.
a drug addict.
Right?
I agree. I feel like most people that I see near my work, because you literally see people doing drugs, it's a lot of the drugs.
But you know what? Is that what caused the
Correct.
homelessness,
We
or
talked
did
about
you
this.
just
Did you become a drug
when
addict
you hit the
because you hit
streets?
the streets and
Yeah,
that was your influence, or that's what you did to cope? Or did you become homeless because of
you
your
were.
addiction?
Yeah,
I don't know. But
yeah.
I think either are possible.
I think I kind of stereotype at times where if I see a homeless person and they're like panhandling or whatever they're doing on the side, and I got a couple of dollars in my pocket, when I'm going to hand
Trying
it
to give it.
over, I'm just like,
I
is
hope
this
you
person going to,
spend it
yeah,
on,
spend
yeah.
it on some food or don't smoke it or this,
Yeah.
that, and the other? But I think you can tell the difference between
Oh yeah.
a smoker or
I
a
tell you,
drug
the
addict.
other, I don't know, the other week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I had went to Taco Cabana right by my work, and there was this guy right at the window, and he was so drugged out that he was swaying, and I thought any second he was just gonna like totally fall asleep and like dive into where we were driving through the drive-through. And I just was so nervous. I was anxious the
Right.
whole time because I was adamant that he was about to get run over at any second. Like right as someone was going to take off, that's the one moment he was going to, and he just was out of it.
Right. And I told you the same thing. This person had a sign in his hand, and I don't know if he had just finished with the sign or not, but he was like,
literally just
standing there out. I was like,
there.
is this person gonna fall over? But
yeah,
the
and
way
right,
that he
and
was
now
bent,
we're kind of like giggling about it, but at the time, it's sad.
kind of scary. Yeah,
it's scary and it's sad, and no matter the reasonings behind it, whether it was on them or not, it's just a sad epidemic. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, I would agree. Because if you think about it, when I was growing up, you heard about weed or some crack, later on down the line, or some cocaine or whatever.
But now there's harsher stuff on them streets.
I'll tell you what, especially here in
and they're
Albuquerque,
lining
they're talking
it with
about
extra stuff.
fentanyl,
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
fentanyl.
So it's a little more serious than it was back in the days. I'm pretty sure when I was growing up, like the cocaine, this, that, and the other was serious. It was a serious drug, but for its time. But nowadays, it's worse. It's out of control.
There's more of it, and it's worse.
Yeah.
The product is worse.
So substance abuse, especially like with these kids nowadays, I think when it comes to smoking weed and this, that, and the other, it's cool. It's trendy now. You know what I mean? So it's easy to get caught up in, okay, I'm in junior high school or middle school or however you want to call it, and I'm smoking weed.
Yeah.
But then this weed kind of gets old, so then now I'm doing like wax or I'm doing the vape pens and stuff like that. It's easy to try to graduate to a more potent drug, so you can be a full-on cocaine user by the time you're in high school.
And it's more accessible.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, the next one is local wages are not enough.
Yeah,
which is very common.
So you look at the average when it comes to your minimum wage, right? And individuals get minimum wage jobs, but then a lot of times these minimum wages are not.
Yeah, especially for like the local areas, like your minimum wage does not even cover what the expenses are for just putting a roof over your head.
Right, because if you look at it,
you would have to like find roommates to even cover that.
And that's an issue in itself, because you can't trust
everyone.
Yeah, people like you used to be able to trust people. Not only to cover their part of the rent, just to be responsible. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, you're right. If you have a minimum wage job, which I think they just increased, or they were trying to increase the minimum wages here,
it's still not enough.
Right, because the cost of living has
increased,
risen.
Right.
Yeah. So you can't find a one-bedroom apartment for $500 like you used to.
Now they're like $1,200 for a one-bedroom, where they used to be like $400 or $500.
Right. So then you got to do the math in your head. I can't afford a $1,000 one bedroom and a car note with insurance and this, that, and the other. It's just not going to happen.
Which hence why they say a lot of kids tend to stay home longer nowadays. So yeah, definitely local wages are not up to par.
Yeah.
So, all right, next one is burned bridges and or family conflict.
Oh, definitely.
I feel like this is a lot.
I just say to myself, and I always think
He
when I see
always
a
says
homeless
this.
person, like
Always when we're together. He probably talks to himself too when he's by himself. What
maybe
do you
so,
say?
like, where's your family at? Like, what did you do that was so bad that
You
you
have
can't
no
go
one.
back to your family? You know what I mean? Now, granted, like I said earlier, not everyone has family around in their local area. Like right now, I don't have family here in
Mhm.
Albuquerque, but I should be able to go where my family is, and
Yeah.
someone put me up. How did you end up in that
To where no
situation
one
where
would.
where you're living on the
Because you
street?
burned bridges.
Man, I just
Or
can't.
because the whole like maybe domestic you pushed them away.
I can understand that, but
So
I can't see myself in that situation where I burned that many bridges that I can't go anywhere. Like you can't do friends or family.
and the thing is most things that maybe have happened that created this conflict maybe could be fixed if either side, whoever was wrong, or if you guys come to an agreement, can just say you're sorry or right, or agree to disagree, and just like there normally is some way to overcome that.
Right, like you said, most or normally you can, but then there are some cases where
You cannot.
You burn that bridge.
Yeah.
Like whatever you did, you stole from your family. You know, you pawned off something.
Yeah, molestation, sexual assault, anything like that.
Something of that nature.
You may not even be alive if you were with me. I'm sorry. Not just homeless, but you may be 6 feet under.
Yeah, it's kind of it's crazy.
Something to do with
it's
that.
crazy, but you burning your bridges, you have to think about it, especially these youngsters, and they say, "Well, I hate my parents," or "I can't stand this person in my family," or whatever. Just think about it, man. When push comes to shove, you should always have that fallback. You should always keep your family in mind, because there's nobody that's going to be there to the extent of your family being there for you. You might have to hear it. You might have to hear how wrong, how bad, how this, that, and the other that you are, or this, that, and the other. But they're still going to be there for you if you can own up to your responsibility.
Another one that we discussed was with the LGBTQ community. A lot of people are getting disowned or kicked out of their homes because they're coming out, or the way they choose to live their life. And so I think that has also increased for the homelessness, is because they're getting kicked out and disowned.
Right. And that's why I said, when I first met you or whatever, and I go to like Walmart or I go to the store, I talk to everyone.
He does.
Like the cashier, whatever. I try to read the name tag and address that person, because you never know. I might fall on a hard time. Yeah, well, I might fall on a hard time.
Didn't that happen to you at the gym? Didn't one lady, you talked to her?
Yeah, she said that.
You're the first person who's talked to me, and I've been here a year or something. Yeah, Ron is that guy. I'm totally not.
But in the same breath, I could say, you know what? If I talk to this person every time I go in there and they get used to me and I'm nice. Let's say I lost my job, and then I'm talking to this person and say, you know what? I lost my job, and he or she says,
in my car.
Right, and he or she says, you know what, man,
I have an extra room.
Right, not even an extra room, but let me talk to the manager and see if I can get you hired on here.
Oh, that's true.
Because sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And how you treat that person. So
that's very true.
I always talk to everyone. Yeah, because I don't take what I got going on for granted. You never know when I might fall into a hard time, and I might need to work at one of the grocery stores or the gas station or something like that.
Or a stripper.
I am either way. If I got to shake the tush, I got to shake the tush. You know what I mean? I'm just saying I am not bigger than any job. You know what I mean? I'll do whatever it takes. I agree.
I used to clean offices when I was a single mom. I hated it, but it had to be done.
It had to be done because that's where your income
I hated that job. It was awful.
All right, the next one is on you. What you got?
Mental illness, which is very big nowadays. People just don't know how to handle it. It's difficult to handle or to deal with. So sometimes they go out on the streets because they don't know any better, or they burn bridges, or maybe they didn't want to take their medication, so then people just couldn't handle them. Like there's just so many different reasons behind mental illness
And-
that could create homelessness.
Right. And speaking of that, even with mental illness, and you mentioned medications. Those medications are kind of expensive too.
That's
nowadays.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
People, yes, I may be fine when maybe I'm bipolar or schizophrenic or whatever, and I can't afford my medication that keeps me level-headed.
Right.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
So what do you do at that point?
Because
do I eat or do I take a pill?
Because not only the medications are expensive, if you look at getting insurance is expensive too, depending on what type of plan.
Even if you pay insurance, you're still having to cover other costs beyond insurance.
Right, because sometimes you have to pay
premium,
your copay. Sometimes you have to go to the hospital to get mentally checked out, and that has a deductible or copay associated with it as well.
It's always something.
So, yeah. And I don't know how to get over that part of it when it comes to mental illness, and even just to get diagnosed with what you have to be considered a mental illness is expensive and time consuming. So
I wonder if there's like one website that is a resource for everything, right? Like, hey, you have domestic violence. Here's all the resources per state, per city, blah, blah, blah. You have mental illness. Here's all these organizations, nonprofits, whatever, that can help you. You have loss of employment, like one website that you can, that's like user friendly, that can direct you. We should come up with something.
Now that you don't put the blueprint out there already.
Hey, let's see who's faster. All right, we have housing prices or lack of housing.
Lack of housing.
Yeah, well, so nowadays they say that all these huge companies are building multifamily units to rent out, right? Okay. Or these big companies are purchasing all these homes just to rent out, so no one's able to own homes anymore, which creates family wealth or continues family wealth. And then, of course, housing prices, like we said, renting a studio or one bedroom right now is way more expensive than what it was.
Very much so.
So how do you handle that? We were laughing because we were like, we used to complain when our rent was what, $1,100?
Well, $9 something bucks, and then
we would complain every time our rent would raise. Like,
yeah. Then it went to like 1,100. It was like, oh heck no.
Yeah. Then when it went to 15, we were even questioning, like, maybe we need to find something cheaper.
Yeah, like this is some bull.
Like that was the least of our worries. Now I would love to have a $1,500 rent.
Yeah, you think?
Right? I know, so funny.
Yeah, but with the housing prices now, even with the rent, you could go to maybe a lesser, how do you say it?
Community?
Yeah, but I don't want to call it lesser community.
Yeah, like they have levels. Like I used to manage B communities, A communities. Okay, they do have levels.
Not in the upper class neighborhoods. Yeah. You could have, back in the days went to
go to
maybe an affordable homes or whatever.
But even with that affordable housing, their requirements are like their income requirements are higher, or I can barely pay my bills, but yet you're saying I have to make this amount.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're saying you're saying I make too much and I literally am drowning.
Right. I make too much for the affordable housing.
Correct.
But I
don't make enough for a normal.
Don't make enough for a normal home,
I remember
so you're stuck in there.
Yes. Right. I remember when I was looking for places, that's where I always was.
That's crazy.
That in between where I didn't make enough, but yet I made too much for the low income is what they call them.
Yes. Yeah. And especially when you have two individuals within the household, and you both are barely making it, you know what I mean? But you can't afford to move into a home or rent a home. You want to go to the affordable housing area, but you make too much for that. You know what I mean? So they're not going to take you in to that situation because you make too much for the affordable housing.
Right. Yeah. Also, too, like with the housing, people are, how do they say, multi-generational families are having to move in together, right? Like you and your parents and your grandparents are all having to live under the same roof. I'm just saying a lot of people are doing that because
bruh.
that's what's required because people cannot pay their stuff.
My thing is this, and granted, I love my parents to death, and I know they'll take me and you or whoever is involved in the family in, but you want to be in a situation where I wouldn't want my parents to stay with me, not move back with my parents because I'm able to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But going back to the family and you get stuck in that rut where now it's you, the family, your family, and then your kid's gonna have a family.
Yeah.
Then you got like 20 people in the house. Yeah, it's not.
It's
It might
not
be beneficial
ideal,
for the
but
moment,
it's
but it's not
necessary
ideal.
right now.
Yeah.
Because if not, what do? You
You
can't
can't
afford
be-
your own place, so you would become homeless.
Yeah, I would like I
Or
said,
you do that in order to not be homeless.
I would go home in a minute versus being homeless. I don't care what my situation is at home. I would go home in a minute before being homeless. Now, there's other situations, like you said, molestation, there's abuse and whatnot. I'm not saying
I would rather be
anybody-
homeless.
Yeah, I'm
than
not
go
saying for
back
anyone to
that.
go there, but if you have that choice,
that
I'd rather
situation
patch it up with my family members than to be
on
on
the
the
streets.
streets.
Yeah.
But it's all about you, though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's about your attitude and what you have going on. Because some people, like I said, have burned those bridges to the point where there's no repairing.
Yeah.
There's no repairing those bridges. You know what I mean?
So a quick survey. I want you guys in the comments. The question is, do you understand or can you empathize with someone who has become homeless?
Yeah.
What are the reasons that you could be like, I can understand that? Or what are the reasons where you're like, nope, there's no excuse for anything for you to get to that point? You know, I know that some people do believe like with like substance abuse or certain things that there's like, I don't care, you know, why or what, or there's no reason for it. And then there's others who are like, I can understand, or hey, I've been there myself. I became homeless because of this or that. This is how I survived it. Like what situations have you come across, or can you understand it, or do you know someone who has, and what was that situation? Share it in the comments, and maybe two people, more than one person has run into the same issue.
Probably so. Because I've been broke. I've been like broke.
Yeah.
But I've never been homeless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been broke and it was self-inflicted. Like I said, trying to keep up with the Kardashians, but I've never been homeless. And you know what? To be honest with you, I've never been afraid to be homeless because of my family dynamic. I know if I reach rock bottom, I guess I know that my family would take me in, because one thing that I do have is respect for my family. So I would never burn that bridge with them to always have a place to go to.
But that's you.
And
right.
I'm saying,
there's again other people who may not be the situation.
Right.
Hence why it caused the homelessness.
Right. Or there's people, like I said, that have no more family left, and then they
Right.
have nowhere to turn to. And I agree with that too. So the question is, do you understand or empathize with the homeless? I see it both ways. I understand how you get there, and I empathize with some
Your
of the
situation.
individuals. Yeah. However, I see and listen to some of the stories
that there's always a way.
No, not just that. Some of the stories where this person is homeless because they're just an ugly person.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
That is another fact. There are just people, or like, what is this word I keep? Narcissists.
Yeah,
I know. I'm big on that because I'm hearing a lot about it.
Trendy
and so
word.
It is trendy, but you see it a lot.
Yeah, but normally that's a negative towards a man. I looked up the definition. I did look up the definition.
Mm-hmm.
And they said for male or female, but normally,
is it more common with men?
Right. If you hear that word, it's normally a woman saying it, towards a man.
So then, is it because most men are narcissists, or is it because, I'm just asking? If you looked it up.
Yeah, I just looked it up because I'm gonna do, with my personal podcast, I'm going to do a podcast about it.
Okay.
Because if you look at it,
I even want to hear that.
Yeah, if you listen to, let's say, on other social media forums like TikTok and stuff like that, and people are talking live, they normally says, "Oh, I wasn't with this person because they're a narcissist and this, that, and the other."
Mm,
And it's normally females talking about
mm.
males. I've never heard a male say that a female was a
A
narcissist.
narcissist.
Right.
You're right about that, because a lot of the people that I hear about, they do tend to be men. There's this one
Correct.
man that I actually follow because I like his stuff, and he says he is a diagnosed narcissist, and so
A
now,
diagnosed.
yeah,
How do you
yeah,
diagnose?
he's a black gentleman with like braids, and he's like, I'm a diagnosed narcissist. And so he basically will like pull up other people who post like what their boyfriend did, and he's
Mhm.
like, that's a narcissist when they try to put the blame
Mm.
on you or do this or that, or when they first come into the relationship, they show you all the love so that you're like hooked, and then they
start,
switch it.
start controlling.
They
But
start
like I said, yeah,
controlling and
it's always been, when I did the research, it's always been a female talking about a male. I've never seen
so
a
that's why you don't
male.
like the word.
No, I don't like it because it's trendy.
Yeah.
And the thing
So
about
what
it,
is it called if it's not a narcissist?
well, I don't know. But the
Oh.
thing is, when it became trendy and you say, "Why did your relationship end?" The first word that people were using was that word.
I hear you. I like it though because I feel like it gives an answer to that type of behavior.
Is it? Because it could be broad. It could be just because a dude is controlling, is he a narcissist? Or just
No.
because he has certain standards and you don't like his standards, is he a narcissist? You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to do the podcast.
Okay, I
to
want you to
further
I want you to do
understand,
the
yeah,
podcast.
what the degrees of a narcissist really is.
Yeah.
But let's get back to
I know. Sorry, squirrel.
the homelessness.
Clearly he needs to do that podcast.
Yeah.
So homelessness in America, unfortunately,
Hmm.
has really increased these last few years. It was not great before COVID, but during and since COVID, it has significantly increased. And there's a variety of reasons
Right.
that people could become homeless. Again, 59% of Americans are one paycheck away
From
being homeless.
Right.
That doesn't include any other of the reasons that we listed. And so, I say try to understand where you can, try to help if anything, and just try to be understanding.
Yeah, because so the understanding part is big because, and granted, everyone that is on the GoFundMe, right?
Oh.
Everyone that's on GoFundMe, I'm pretty sure they have a legitimate reason to be on there. But I've seen some things on the GoFundMe page that people are trying to get funded. Sometimes I kind of question
Like
it.
what?
Just some of the things that are on there that's not life threatening or whatever.
No.
Sometimes I kind of question it, and then I see homeless people outside, like you. So there was somebody that was on there that was asking for like a couple of grand, and then they raised like $500 something thousand, right?
Dang.
And the grand was about maybe going to Disney World or something like that, or somebody that needs a kidney or something like that.
But on that, you see what it's for. You have the choice to donate or not.
Right, but then you fail to get what you're raised certain money for, like homeless individuals.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes, in a lot of cases, we as Americans look at homelessness as that person's problem.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? That's his problem or her problem. They did something, and normally stereotyping is drugs to put them into that situation.
Normally, yeah.
Right.
I think when I approach someone who's homeless, normally because I'm trying to feed them, if it's at like a drive-through or whatever, I just always try to humanize them. Just because they're homeless, I don't try to talk down to them. I always, hey, what's your name? There's this, I told Ron, I've seen him like 5 times now. There's this young kid at Walmart right down the street that's homeless. And when I saw him, he was sunburned because it was like towards the end of summer.
Right.
He was red. His lips were just dry from the sun. And I had asked him, hey, I don't have money on me. I never carry money, but there was a wiener schnitzel right there. Would you like something to drink and a, hot dog or a chili dog? And yes, he gratefully accepted. And then the next time I came around again, I checked in on him. How are you? And I did ask him, why, how young are you? Or how old are you? And he said he was 21. And I said, why are you out here? What's your story?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, how did I tell you? My mom, not abandoned me. I can't think of the word, but in my impression was he was young and probably they conflicted, and
Right.
she's like, I'm not putting up with this, and he would have rather left
Than
dealt with what his mom's rules were,
Mm-hmm.
was my impression. And I just told him, no matter what, you got to stay positive and you got to stay on track and you got to just do what you can,
But then again, there's some people like there's a guy and a girl that one day ran up on me when I was outside of Walgreens over there by your job and says, hey, we need like the classic $20 to get back to Denver, this, that, and the other. We're running a little short. So I give them some money. The next week I go back to that Walgreens and then they run the same story on me. I'm just like, are you serious? Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. I just never tend to carry cash. So I think that's why I go to the whole giving them food, especially because normally if I'm getting, I like to get like breakfast on Fridays or whatever at Golden Pride. And so if there's someone around there, I'll sometimes, if they're close enough, I'll ask them what they want, or I'll just pick one. Like, I don't know what you want. You may have an allergy, but hey, here's a burrito, but I just always try to treat them with respect and not talk down to them. So if you ever have that situation or you come into it, just always just try to remember that we're all one paycheck away from being homeless.
The bottom line is there's a lot of homelessness out and about. It's not just here in Albuquerque. It's not just in your local area. It's throughout the world. There's homeless individuals. You decide whether you want to help out with that cause or not, depending
or
on
if there's a different way you want to do it.
Yeah, different way if you want to help or if you decide not to help. But the thing is just to educate yourself on the homeless situation, period, because in the long run, it's going to affect you in one way or another. So that is a good question, though. Do you empathize with them, or do you understand where they are coming from or how they even became homeless in your local area?
Yeah.
And chime in, like she said, like Angela said, chime in and let us know the answer to that.
Yeah.
We would really love to hear what.
Or if you've been in a situation yourself.
Right.
Maybe you have been homeless, or maybe you stayed in your car for a few weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Or how do you see the homeless situation in your local area?
Yeah.
Like we have a lot of homeless here, and I don't mind the homeless being on the streets and stuff like that. And if you're able to help out at the corner when you stopped in traffic, so be it. One thing that I don't like though is if I'm going through the drive-through and they have homeless people in the drive-through when you're trying to order, and they're the individuals are standing right there. I don't think the establishment should allow that to happen. Outside of that, it's fair game. It's up to me whether I want to donate to their cause or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Is that it?
That's it. So that was a good conversation about homelessness in America.
Yeah, it was a little deep.
Yeah, just be vigilant around your local area. Not all homeless people are angels. So make sure that you take care of yourself. Yeah, when you try to approach an individual, you come before anyone else. So just make sure that you're safe when you're dealing with anyone, not just the homeless. And like I said, educate yourself when it comes